Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Nityananda Vadutandur Vasudha Pranavallabha Janava Jivita Pati Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Shriman Sachinandana Purvaja Pavanmato Jagatrata Rakta Gaura Kalevara. So this morning's lecture is on Srimati Jahnava Devi, who is a favorite of mine, being the wife of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, being so dedicated toward the Hare Krishna movement revolution as it was 500 years ago, and being a figurehead and stalwart general for the second generation of devotees of Mahaprabhu's time. So being a second generation devotee, I kind of feel as though we have a special dispensation and a special place within Jahnava Mata's heart. And within Bhakti Ratnakar by Narahari Chakravarti, there's a really just short, sweet prayer to Sri Jahnava Devi. Nityananda Priyam Prema Bhakti Ratna Pradayini Sri Janavishwarim Vande Tapatraya Nivarini. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Jahnava Ishwari, the most beloved of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Jahnava Devi bestows the priceless jewel of ecstatic, loving devotional service, and she wards off the threefold material miseries. So, Jahnava Devi was born in a town near Navadvip called Shalagram, from which many Shalagram Shilas are found in the river near there. And she was born to parents. Her father's name was Surya Das and her mother's name was Bhadravati. And she had a sister named Vasudha. And at the time when they were to be married, they looked for a suitable groom. And it was found that Lord Nityananda was the person that they both were able to marry. And so while it was understood that Jahnava Mata had no children, Vasudha had two children, Virabhadra, who was also known as Virchandra, and a girl, Ganga Devi. And it is said that Virabhadra is an expansion of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, and Ganga Devi is an expansion of the goddess Ganga. So after Vasudha passes away, then both of the two children come under the care of Jahnava Mata, who is also known by the devotees as Jahnava Ishwari or Sri Ishwari Devi. So both of the children come under her care. Later on, they imbibe love of God from her. It is said that she was an absolute embodiment of the mood and the pastimes of the Panchatattva, which was a wonderful blessing for the devotees at that time, because the Panchatattva had wound up their earthly pastimes for the most part. Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu were no longer there. And so the devotees took shelter of Jahnava Mata. And I felt like it would be such a wonderful way to honor, as we hear for tomorrow is the disappearance day of Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So all three of them happen to be very dear to Jahnava Mata. So I thought it would be a very cool way to honor all of them at once. So she decides to go to Braj. And she goes to Braj many times. And in a lecture given by my Guru Maharaj, he said that on many of her travels, there were many, many people who wanted to kill her. Because she was a woman and because she was preaching the way that she was preaching, which was fearlessly and very openly about the glories of Krishna consciousness, about the glories of love of God, taking up this mammoth revolution after Gaur-Nitai have left, which even in the time of Gaur-Nitai, the Smarta Brahmanas and so many others were not happy that they were preaching this philosophy so boldly, strongly throughout the streets. Give it to everyone. And so Jahnava Mata, taking up that same mood, began to preach. And she was garnering thousands of followers. And as you can imagine, this was a problem for many of the Brahmanas, many of the other thieves thought that she must have loads of money. And this is why she has so many followers. And so there were many attempts made on her life. And all of them were foiled. And especially from the Smarta Brahmanas, Guru Maharaj says that their Kula Devi, their presiding deity, the goddess Durga, would often come to them at night. And she would come very, very fiercely, forcefully riding on her lion. And she would put the absolute living fear of all the gods within them, saying, how dare you? Jahnava Devi is my own worshipable deity. I am but an expansion of her. If you don't surrender to her with your whole heart and soul, I, your worshipable deity, will come and destroy you. So she was personally protected, having taken up this task of spreading love of God to any and everyone. So she goes to Braj several times. On one such occasion, she goes to the bank of the Jamuna, and she is taking her bath, and she sees that there's a family there, and they are lamenting. And it seems like their son has died. And so they're lamenting and crying, and everyone is upset. And finally, Jahnava Devi goes and she wants to see. She says, well, what's happening? And she goes to touch the young boy. And the parents are very upset. They say, no, 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 you'll become contaminated if you touch my young boy. And Jahnava Devi says, you're a Brijbasi. All of you are Brijbasis. If I touch your son, I'll become purified. There is nothing within this land of Sri Vrindavan Dham that could possibly contaminate anyone or anything. And so then Jahnava Mata touches the boy's hand. And just by touching his hand, it is said that the boy comes back to external consciousness. And I found that to be an interesting way to phrase it, because he was dead. It wasn't just that he had fainted or lost consciousness. The boy was gone. And finally, when they witness him coming back to life, immediately they begin to herald her as a saint and a performer of miracles. And they say, you've rejuvenated our dead son just by your merciful glance. She didn't even have to really recite any mantras. She just touched his hand, and next thing you know, he's back. And everyone is jubilant and joyful, and they're celebrating. And Jahnava Devi just says, seeing your sorrow, Krishna was the one who brought him back to life. I had nothing to do with it. That level of humility, I'm not sure that I would have been able to keep that humble attitude. there is such a tendency as we are preaching, as people are looking up to us and saying, wow, you're doing such a good job. At least for me, I know sometimes if I really look deep within, and I don't have to look very far actually, but if I look deep within, I think, you're right, I am doing a good job. Thanks for acknowledging that finally, you know, because I've been waiting for such a long time just for someone to acknowledge how good of a job I'm doing. And yet, Jahnava Mata was the complete opposite, performing miracle after miracle, protected from thieves and brahmanas alike, garnering thousands of followers. And she is giving all credit to Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna himself. None of this is me. I had nothing to do with it. It reminds me a little bit of the gentleness and the humility of Yamuna Devi. And it's such a wonderful example and such a wonderful thing that we've had such crest jewels within our movement. Even today, that we can see the glory of Mahaprabhu's mood. We get to see what that looks like in real time, just in case 500 years ago was too far removed. If we think, oh, well, it was easy then, you know, they were so close to Mahaprabhu. She had personal contact with Sri Nityananda Prabhu. But Yamuna Devi also ready to give all credit to Srila Prabhupada, ready to give all credit to her Guru Maharaj, and also wanting to just give whatever knowledge she had, willing to not hoard the information, thinking, but if I give this, what will that make me? If I am teaching what Srila Prabhupada has taught me and giving all of this information, then what position does that put me at? But she didn't have to think about that. She didn't have to rely on that. She simply wanted to bring joy to her Guru Maharaj and bring joy to Sri Krishna. And in that way, experience what she would always call Krishna magic. And so when I was researching and reading about Sri Jahnava Mata, I couldn't help but think about Yamuna Devi also, and think about this wonderful example that we have in our modern day holy name movement, where Mahaprabhu's pastimes are even still taking place. So, of course, one of the most famous pastimes is her going to Narottam Das Thakur's Gaur Purnima celebration in Kaituri and helping to organize that first Gaur Purnim festival. So it is said that the very first Gaur Purnim festival within the absence of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu was organized by Narottam Das Thakur. He was installing a beautiful deity of Lord Chaitanya. And when Jahnava Mata would see this deity, she would begin to cry and go into ecstasy. Some say rolling on the ground. And she would feel the presence so strongly of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, even within this deity of Mahaprabhu, which makes me think about our sweet Gaurachandra, because we'll be actually celebrating his installation anniversary soon. And so as I was reading and thinking about it, I couldn't help but see his sweet form in my mind every time they spoke about this deity of Mahaprabhu. And it made me wonder how many times I truly take darshan. And what I'm really seeing when I really take darshan, as I look at the form of the deity, just from the feet and going up to his face, am I really experiencing? But right here is the mood of Mahaprabhu. Right here within this deity, he's imbibed all of his potency and all of his power, just ready for us to soak up. Am I really taking darshan of this deity? And so I made it a point to want to remember, to look at Gaurachandra with fresh eyes every time, looking at the gorgeous full moon that is Mahaprabhu as he has appeared in his most munificent form, just to counteract all of the things that is ingrained in New York. He has come as a full moon over New York just to preside over this place and give every cooling shelter ray that he possibly can. So when she would see this deity of Mahaprabhu, she would go into absolute ecstasy, looking at the sweetness of his face in this form, just remembering the pastimes of Gaurnitai. So they wanted to perform an installation ceremony for the deity and a large Gaur Purnim festival. And so they invited everyone. And about this festival, let's see if I can find the quote. Because my Guru Maharaj gives such a beautiful quote about what this festival can mean for all of us. The real testimony of true devotion is how devotees lovingly serve and honor each other, with Sri Radha and Krishna as the center of their lives. And when Krishna sees everyone loving each other, that gives him unlimited happiness. This was the foundation and the binding principle of this entire festival. Even though the installation ceremony and Gaur Purnima was at the forefront, it was almost like it was just the excuse to be able to serve each other to the highest degree possible. So they invited everybody. It didn't matter if you agreed or didn't agree. They invited everyone. And they invited singers and preachers and speakers, everyone that they could, mridanga players, kartal players, everyone was invited. And it is said that they made garlands for everyone. And by everyone, they even considered all of the instruments to be personalities. So they made garlands for all of the instruments, mridangas, kartals, you name it, they made garlands for them. And they would put the garlands on the instruments also. And they had an adivas ceremony where they would honor all of the instruments. And sometimes now we can see before the Kirtan Mela, which I feel like this was like the first Kirtan Mela that they really had in the absence of Gaurnitai. Now in Mayapur, we can see sometimes right before the Kirtan Mela, during the Adivas ceremony, they will have this special ceremony where they honor all of the instruments. And it's like a fire yagya. And it's as though they are welcoming all of the most honored guests. And it's all the instruments. And so this was seen to be done even within the time of Jahnava Mata. So they would honor each person. They would honor each person's service. And then they would honor each person's particular proclivity in their service. And I find that it's interesting because we see a lot within Vedic culture. You hear, oh, this particular person is the best. So among bowmen, you can hear, oh, Arjuna was the best. Oh, but Karna was the best. Oh, also Bhishma was the best. And so sometimes you wonder, what does best mean exactly? And so it was exactly this mood that was brought forth within this festival. Oh, but Lokanath Goswami is the best. Ah, but Narottam Das Thakur is the best. Oh, but Narahari is also the best. Everyone was the best. But it wasn't just a superficial, oh yeah, well, that title now, the best now it loses some of the meaning. They really, really imbibe this mood that because everyone is the best, let me serve them to my greatest capacity. So instead of just saying it as an empty phrase, oh, this person is the best. No, they would greet them with full honor, with full glory. And they did this for every person. And just imagine what our festivals would be like if every guest that entered was greeted as though we would greet our Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And the reason that this can be so mind-blowing is because it attracts people to service so much. To be able to greet someone else, whether we consider them lower or higher than ourselves, to be able to bring that humility to the forefront, to be able to greet them as though they were a dear associate of Srila Prabhupada, just at the very beginning of a festival. I feel like no matter what else happens in the festival, even if there are mistakes committed, that person then feels more inclined to say, oh, well, I mean, we got to overlook that because did you see how they greeted me? There were flower petals and garlands and all kinds of things. That stays with you. And we've often heard the quote, people will forget what you said. People might forget what you did, but they will not forget how you made them feel. And so this was a festival where everyone was made to feel as though they were a personal associate of Gaur Nitai, whether they had had personal association with them or not. And so this is the quality of Trinad Api Sunichena. In actual true terms, really looking, saying, not just emptily, oh, Mataji, I am nothing before you. But actually, did you know that you did this, and this wrong? It's a real true mood of humility, saying, this person is Krishna's friend. This person is the dearest associate of my Gaur Nitai. This person is the real associate of my Guru Maharaj. Never thinking that, oh, but just yesterday I saw them and they were at the Starbucks around the corner. So really, I can't give them all honor because that person just had a chai yesterday. It didn't matter. They brought everyone there and they didn't just say that the person was the best. They treated them as though they were absolutely the best. And it calls into mind Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's, one of his wonderful examples for community building within Krishna consciousness. And he would often say, we should treat every person that we meet within this movement as though our spiritual lives depended on it. What would happen if we treated everyone that we met as though our very spiritual lives depended on it? This was the mood of the festival at Keturi. Everyone was treated as though my spiritual life, it is life and death at this moment. If I had a chance to go back to Godhead, it would depend right on this moment. And how I treat this person is the determining factor. Somehow, the quarrels that we have with one another or the troubles that we might have interacting with one another get a lot smaller the moment we think, if the next moment everything ended and my entrance into Goloka Vrindavan and the whole spiritual abode, or the absolute pleasure or displeasure of my spiritual master depended on my interaction with this person, then how would I act? All of a sudden it becomes a little bit in perspective, how we think about our arguments, how we think about how we handle our arguments, whatever it is. So this was the mood at Keturi. And as you can imagine, everyone was eager and happy to be there because of this mood. And it is said that Jahnava Mata loved to cook for the devotees. She absolutely loved to be able to serve them by feeding them. And so once again, of course, that made me remember Yamuna Devi. But it also reminded me of why I enjoy cooking for my friends. Being able to see that mood of when someone's really enjoying something that you've made. It's like welcoming them into your very heart. Because it is sometimes a long task, sometimes not an easy task. Sometimes it's, my Guru Maharaj once said, if we were peeling every single potato, thinking Krishna is going to taste this one potato that I have peeled, I'm going to offer it to my Guru Maharaj is going to offer it through the parampara, that parampara is finally going to offer it to the manjaris, who will offer it to Srimati Radharani, who will then offer it to Krishna, and Krishna is going to taste this one potato. How much ecstasy would we actually be in while in kitchen duty? And I happened to be in kitchen duty at the time when he was speaking it. So that morning, I remember I had been peeling potatoes and I was not feeling the ecstasy. And it made an impression on me, thinking, yeah, how much am I really experiencing Krishna within my service? And I remembered wanting to develop a new mindset and not take my service for granted. And remember that the devotee's enjoyment is directly Krishna's enjoyment. There is a direct correlation. I should have firm faith and conviction that when the devotees enjoy it, Krishna absolutely enjoys it. So she cooked for all of the devotees. And she made the first offering for the deity of Gaura Sundar that they installed. And not only did Jahnava Mata cook for the devotees, but then she personally went and served them all. And it would go in rounds. And so as soon as she was done serving one group, then she would go back and serve another group. And when she was done serving that group, she would go back to the first group and then serve that group again. Just wanting to somehow give as much love as she could through this prasadam distribution. And so she would feed the devotees and feed them until they were all and still then after that, she wanted to feed all those who had helped her. Deciding at the very end, then she would finally take some prasad. But her joy was in serving the devotees. She found her joy not in trying to enjoy all the festival herself, but in trying to just simply honor and serve all the other devotees. And so this was the glory of this first Kirtan Mela. This was the example that was set for the second generation of devotees. And she would speak to them, especially with Raghunath Das Goswami and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. They would be in extreme distress, feeling the emptiness of their lives after the departure of Gaura-Nitai. And she would speak to them and console them. She would ask them to read to her from the books of Rupa Goswami. And by doing so, all of them together, they would experience the bliss of feeling that Gaura-Nitai were right there again with them. And so during this festival, during the kirtan, it is said that a miracle occurred. As the devotees were praying, as the devotees were singing with all their hearts in this wonderful kirtan, presided over by Sri Jahnava Mata, Gaura Nitai made an appearance. And they began to dance in the middle of this kirtan. They had already ended their earthly pastimes, but it didn't matter. They appeared there, and everyone was able to experience and see it. The Panchatattva had redescended. And I wonder, how many times is that happening for me? How many times am I diving that deeply into the kirtan where I can feel, oh, maybe just by singing with my full heart, doesn't matter what the tune is. It doesn't matter who's singing. Doesn't matter who's leading. Doesn't matter how fast or slow the tune is. Doesn't matter. All of those things should not matter to me. What should matter to me is, am I singing with my full heart? So much so that if Gaura Nitai were to appear in this kirtan, I would somehow be able to gather that vision. I would somehow just be able to get a glimpse of them enjoying this kirtan. Am I invested enough in the kirtan to see Gaura Nitai? Because they promise that they will appear. If I'm not seeing, then there's something lacking in my heart. So then it means that I want to go and invest more. I want to go and I want to serve the holy name more. Just so that maybe one day I can be in the kirtan and I can catch a glimpse of this miracle, which is available at any given moment. I once was giving a lecture and someone asked me about whether it was Rama or Ramo. And I remember I took a second before I answered, because my initial thought was, why does it matter? And finally I gave an answer and they said, oh, thank you, because someone criticized me and all these things, and I just wanted to know what to say to them. And I felt a little bit cheated. And I realized that I should have gone with my initial answer of, why does it matter? Of course it does matter if we are in the position of Acharya to teach people. But if our name is not Jahnava Ishwari, and we are not the reigning Acharya of the times, then what does it matter? And the reason I say what does it matter is because if I am chanting with my full attention, I should be oblivious to everything else. If I am chanting with my full attention in order to experience the bliss of Mahaprabhu and the whole Panchatattva descending right here, right now, I shouldn't notice if somebody else has a camera next to me, if somebody else is on their phone, if somebody else is surfing Facebook, if somebody else said Ramo instead of Rama, if somebody else, I should be completely oblivious in the ecstasy of experiencing the Panchatattva, making a miraculous appearance. It shouldn't matter. And in experiencing the Panchatattva, it also shouldn't matter, because I should be experiencing that this person next to me, no matter what their pronunciation is, they are singing the holy names of Krishna. Krishna has appeared on their tongue, in their heart, coming out, and now he is dancing. The holy name has taken up form as a beautiful personality. Can I see the deity of the holy name manifesting before me? And instead, sometimes we wind up getting so caught up in everything else. And in this festival, it didn't matter. They had honored the hearts of the Vaishnavas so much. And there was such a mood of cooperation, compassion, and humility that the Panchatattva were pulled from the heart to make an appearance. This is what I yearn for. This is my meditation. This is what I want to envision for a future. A place where I can put my ego aside, honor every devotee as though they were the personal associate of Srila Prabhupada, the personal associate of my own spiritual master, and sing the holy name and serve the devotees as though Gaura-Nitai are making a personal appearance. If each and every festival was celebrated as though, oh, the very wife of Lord Nityananda is arriving just to celebrate this festival with us, how would we make arrangements? We would pull out all the stops. There would be no holds barred, nothing left out. If Sri Jahnava Ishwari were to make her own appearance and grace our festivals. If every kirtan we thought, if we sing with the right mood, the Panchatattva will appear and everyone will see them. Nothing else would matter. That Prabhu over there playing kartals off would not matter to me. That other person over there with a djembe wouldn't matter to me. It would simply be the most ecstatic festival that had ever occurred. We would talk about it till the end of time. But it's possible. It's possible. The only thing standing in the way of that actually happening is me and my own ego. Because Krishna is unlimited. The Panchatattva are completely unlimited. And in being so unlimited, they can appear and have promised that they will appear. So the only thing that is stopping that and stopping me from experiencing that is me. So I can look and I can see and take accountability for myself, no matter what anyone else is doing. How can I honor the Vaishnavas? How can I take full advantage of these wonderful, glorious Vaishnavas that have come? Whether it's hearing from them, whether it's just honoring them, whether it is just saying, oh, Prabhu, you've come. I can't believe it. We were just waiting for you. That simple phrase, imagine. We don't know what kind of a day someone's had. We never know the impact that we can make on somebody else. But running up to them and saying, oh, you've come, Prabhu, we were just waiting for you. We can't believe it. Oh, come, please, just have a nice seat. Even if that seat is in the back of the room, I guarantee you it wouldn't matter anymore. Because it's how we are able to make others feel. And that is the key to experiencing Mahaprabhu and the mood of the Panchatattva. The real testimony of true devotion is how devotees lovingly serve and honor each other with Sri Radha and Krishna as the center of their lives. And when Krishna sees everyone loving each other, that gives him unlimited happiness. Shri Jahnava Mata Ki Jai.